Chemical, I called BioChemical, because if I say I'm going to help your chemistry, you get images of beakers and lab coats and pipettes, and it's not personal like biochemistry. And it split that into BioToxins, BioNutrients, and breakfast. Breakfast is a complete separate category because when I was treating chronically ill patients in the Bay of Plenty for my first 3 years of practice, these patients were typically the 40 to 65 females with that constellation of fibromyalgia, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, thyroid problems, autoimmune diseases, obesity, all at the same time. And what I found is that in 100% of those cases, they had a minimum of 7 out of 10 of these categories off point, which explains why there were failures in both the Western and alternative medical world, because most clinicians, if they're honest, are only really good at 1 to 3 of these categories, not all 10. So if you've got 7 plus off, you're only going to get temporary, marginal, or unpredictable results with any particular practitioner, protocol, or personality, or product. Does that make sense? What I found was breakfast was a glaring pattern. So glaring, I put it as one of the points. Only 3 patients ever I've treated in that time period in the Bay of Plenty had a consistent, nutritious, nourishing, full breakfast consistently, according to my definition. Everyone else had one of the 4 bad breakfasts: skipping, coffee, sugar, or glorified sugar. And that radically screws up, sorry to ruin your breakfast for a minute. So it radically screws up the adrenal glands. Why? Because you need to shut off cortisol from the night, because when you're asleep you're fasting and the adrenal glands secrete cortisol to give your blood sugar to feed the brain. So if when you wake up you have high cortisol, remember that graph? It's supposed to be high in the morning because you're supposed to have high cortisol to keep sugar in the blood to keep your brain going. If you don't eat, it's going to keep going. Your cortisol is still going to be high. If you eat sugar, it's going to go high. If you have coffee, guess what? It's going to go high. So I tell my patients to have a high protein, fat, and vegetable breakfast, and we're going to go into detail on that in a bit more. But do you understand why breakfast was like such a glaringly obvious thing? Why that pattern was there in chronically ill people?
Are you saying it needs to be high when you wake up, but if you have coffee and the other things,
it's going to go higher than it's supposed to?
And then it crashes harder.
Yeah, there's a natural rhythm of cortisol, but there's an abnormally high thing of cortisol which wears you out. Okay?